Hey everybody, welcome back to HFX Gaming Memories for another exciting episode of Cocktails and Game Pairing. Today I've got a treat for you. We are going to be doing a double header. First we're going to be doing a really fun cocktail, then we're going to be doing a shooter because the game I have paired up with these is a doozy and it's going to be a double drinker. So let's get started. Today we are going to be making a Mojito. It's actually the first cocktail I ever made, and where I discovered the Mojito was in the Miami Vice movie. I was a huge fan of the show, so I was really excited that they were making a movie, and it's the scene where Colin Farrell actually goes with the lady whose name I can't remember to Cuba just to get mojitos, and I thought, what is this drink? I need to learn it. It looks delicious. So this is the way I've been making it for years. You can make a single glass, you can make a pitcher. This is probably my go-to drink when I want to entertain. The reason for that is I've actually had people come up to me and say, hey, I bought all the supplies, can you make those for me? I've had people tell me, wow, this tastes just like going down south. So as a non-bartender and just an amateur, I take that as a compliment. So let's get started. I've already done some prep work, which you're going to need to do in advance. First thing first, going to need a tall glass of your choice. From here, we're going to take some fresh mint. You might have some in your garden. If not, any store should have fresh mint all year round. I usually put about 6 or 7 sprigs in it, depending on if you like yours a little bit more minty. Just push them down to the bottom of the glass. From here, you're going to need 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lime. I've already got that done up before I started the video, and just pour it over the leaves. Now here, you're going to add sugar. I find those little individual packs of sugar are perfect. You can go a teaspoon, you can go for a tablespoon. Really, it all depends on how sweet you actually like your mojitos. I'm going to go somewhere in between. Next, we're going to get our muddler from Rob, who is with us again today. And we're going to muddle that for about 30 seconds. And what we're trying to do is just extract the mint flavor using the granular sugar and the acidity from the lime juice. Just give it a good push and turn. If you don't have a muddler like I did for years until I got one of these sets, a wooden spoon does just fine. That's looking pretty good there. We're actually going to leave the leaves in the bottom of that. From here, we're going to actually start to fill up the glass with ice. It's a drink that you want to have ice pretty much to the top, or at least just to the brim. Next, we're going to add our alcohol. We're just going to go with 1.5 ounces of rum. Again, that's something you can modify if you want to use vodka, even though you shouldn't. If you want to go a little less alcohol, maybe 1/2 ounce, or you want to go really brave, go 2 ounces. So, we'll just mix that in there. And this is where things differ a little bit for me. Normally, you're going to top this up with soda water. But years ago, I discovered this key lime free and clear soda water by President's Choice. You may not have that in your area, but I find that little extra lime just adds to the flavor of the mojito. From here, just a slow pour. We don't want that fizzing up. You want to leave a little bit of space just for stirring because you can see all the ingredients are still sitting on the bottom. You want to get a stir stick, and as you stir, make sure you bring up the ingredients from below. You're going to want to have those mint leaves in there. You're done stirring when the soda water turns more of a green color. Next is just a simple garnish. You're actually going to take a mint sprig, put that in, lime wheel, and of course, fancy straw. You definitely want to go with those tropical colors, pink, green, and there you have it. A great looking, great tasting mojito for you to enjoy with our game. Now I'm going to clean up. We're going to move on to our second drink. Man, that's good. Okay, everybody, you can see that we've changed the orientation because I want you to be able to see this shooter, because a good shooter isn't just about taste, it's about style and presentation. So you're not going to be able to see me mixing it, but you're going to see how it goes into the glass. Pretty simple. Just going to take your shaker, ice. From here, we're going to add a little bit of pineapple juice just to give it some more of that tropic flavor. You're not going to need a lot, and the type of shooter glass you choose is up to you. It should be at least 2 to 3 ounces. Preferably, you should have the tall style. However, they are not at my home right now, and because of the current situation, I can't actually go out and buy them. So we're just going to make do with these dessert glasses. We're going to add maybe 1/2 ounce. You can go even a full ounce of coconut rum. Really up to you, depending on what your preference is in terms of rum flavor. As I said before, I'm not a huge coconut person, but I do like it in a drink. Give that a good shake, just so you can see a little bit. There we go. I have no hand model, so please excuse that. And now what you're going to do is strain it into your glass, and we only want it to go about 3/4 of the way up. Should be good there. Now, I tried this drink multiple ways, and it took me 4 times to actually get it correct. So it actually calls for next, pretty simple, a little bit of grenadine. You can just use the top, a pipette, whatever you'd like. Again, just a splash, just to give it a little bit of that red color at the bottom. So we kind of have a sunset thing going on. I'm going to try a little more just to see what happens. Come on, you. There we go. Oh, I like that. That looks good. Now, here is where things change for me. You can use blue raspberry vodka in the original recipe, but apparently in my province, they don't sell that. So I tried using just vodka with blue raspberry crystal light. It made it murky. I tried it with blue raspberry syrup. It was too heavy. It made it murky. I tried multiple combinations of those fruits. No luck. So in the end, you know what? We're going to go with our good trusty pal, blue curacao, and see how I said it correctly this time. I don't know how I screwed that up. Now we want to layer it on the top very slow, so we're just going to put our spoon in ever so gently, pour it down the back of the spoon. Now that will start to swirl on the top, giving us a bit more. There we go. And there we have it. This is our rainbow shooter or our tropical shooter. Things are starting to mix in a little bit now, but you know what? It's great. Now, let's get back to gaming. Well, there we have it. We've done our shooter. We're sipping our mojito. It's time to pick a game. When I came up with this episode, I had a lot of tropical drinks to do, and I had a lot of tropical games, but I decided on one style of drink, one shooter, and there could only be one game. Well, the theme here is obviously South Miami, Cuba, so we are definitely going with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Probably my personal favorite. This was actually the time I started to get back into gaming. I was familiar with the Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2 top-down games. I played them a lot on PC. I was familiar that there was a Grand Theft Auto 3 and people liked it, but I had never played it. I actually went back and played it after Vice City, so a little harder to do that with those style of games. But Vice City will always have a place in my heart. It was one of the first games I bought as I got back into gaming, so I've played it through multiple times. This game was an absolute juggernaut when it came out. Controversial, yes, but still memorable to today. I know everybody wants Grand Theft Auto 6 to go back to Vice City, and I'm hoping for that. Don't know if it'll be the 80s or modern, but it's going to be great if they do that regardless. What I love about Vice City is that it plays out like a good TV show, movie, or play. In fact, to me, it's broken up into 3 major acts. The first act takes place in 1986. Tommy Vercetti has just been released from prison after serving 15 years for taking out an 11-man ambush squad that tried to kill him. Little did he know that Sonny Forelli, his boss and friend, actually was the one who set it up due to jealousy. So, Tommy's back on the streets, walking around Hardwood, where they have nicknamed him the Hardwood Butcher. You can't have a guy like that walking around the neighborhood. So Sonny starts thinking, what can we do with Tommy? Well, like the old Mustache Pete's, they didn't want to touch drugs, and that was the primary source of criminal income in the 80s. If you haven't seen the movie, documentary, Cocaine Cowboys, take a look. But Sonny wants that drug money, and the other families won't touch it. So his plan is to send Tommy down there, keep him on a short lease. Once Tommy has made enough money, taking over the drug empire, go down and take it from him. So, like an episode of Miami Vice, something we'll talk about in a bit, it starts off pretty simple. You've got the money, they've got the drugs, you're supposed to start up a little small business. Well, turns out another ambush squad gets in the way, and they get away with both the drugs and your money, and you need to get it back because Sonny is pissed.
That was my money, Tommy! My money!
That's really the first act. You just need to figure out who took all the money and drugs, get it back, take them out, and start taking over Vice City. It leads you to a final shootout with Ricardo Diaz. Eventually, you take over his mansion, and now it's time to start expanding your rackets. The second act is really about power, money, respect, the standard Scarface stuff. You need to start building your empire, and that means connections and businesses. Throughout Vice City, you can actually purchase businesses which will then generate income from you. It's something that you start to see a little bit more in the later Grand Theft Auto series, and I think that's a staple that's here to stay. Now right away you won't have a ton of money, so you've got to start with some smaller businesses. For example, take over the cab stand. Pretty simple missions, you've just got to put the other rival cabs out of business. Note, there's a lot of really interesting celebrities in this game that we're going to talk to, but I'll mention, within the cab stand, Doris the Dispatcher's actually played by Blondie lead woman, Deborah Harry. After you've established all your businesses, you're now the king of Vice City. Of course, now Sonny is coming for his slice of the pie. This is when the game turns violent and you need to defend your territory against his thugs. Spoiler alert, something that became very common in Grand Theft Auto is betrayal. Now, at this point, I had actually only played Vice City, so I was not expecting this. Your partner, Lance Vance, decides to turn on you and side with Sonny. I was absolutely heartbroken when this came up. I maybe had a few mojitos that night, was emotionally invested in the characters. I had spent so much time getting wrapped up in this story that I was so mad I remember yelling at my TV. I just couldn't believe that happened. So to get that emotionally invested in a game really shows you how much Vice City meant to me. So let's take a look at a few other little fun things that made Vice City great. What makes Vice City fun is that it is jammed full of pop culture references. Obviously, Scarface is going to be the major one. It's an 80s cocaine game. Of course, it's going to have Scarface references. So some of the obvious ones are when you go to Tommy Vercetti's mansion, go into his office. Just look. This is clearly Tony Montana's office. It's got his chair. It's got the monitors that he's always watching. It has the big bay window where he's assassinated. Secondly, the Malibu Club is really modeled after the Babylon Club that Tony always visits in Scarface. And finally, well, this is actually more of an Easter egg. If you go to this apartment, it's called Apartment 3C, and go into the bathroom. Here you're going to find a chainsaw, and in the bathtub, all over the walls, it's coated with blood. This is clearly a reference to the chainsaw scene from Scarface. Miami Vice is another show that's going to be referenced throughout it. Again, South Beach, 80s. It's going to happen. If you get up to a 3-star rating by committing crimes, you'll actually start to get chased by the Vice police who come along in a Ferrari, very similar to the show. Now, this isn't available in the PlayStation 2 version, but in the Xbox and the mobile versions. If you go to Little Havana and go in behind the police station, you can actually take that Ferrari. It's much faster, has a siren, and you can even perform the side vigilante missions. Again, there's so many references we could take an entire video. One that I didn't realize until recently is one of the businesses you buy is a printing press, and it's a counterfeiting mission. This is actually based on the really underrated movie To Live and Die in LA. It is a great movie that still holds up to today. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Definitely worth it, and it's got William Dafoe. I mean, you can't beat that. By today's standards, Vice City definitely has some pretty crude graphics, but they were cutting edge at the time. One of the things that Rockstar really wanted to do to make this game stand out was hire A-list celebrities to do the voices, and they spared no expense on this. Ray Liotta plays Tommy Vercetti. Now, there's a lot of articles out there about the issues they had with Ray and Rockstar. Next up, Avery Carrington is actually played by Burt Reynolds. He was another one who apparently gave them a little bit of lip. I believe it's even quoted as one of the people from Rockstar saying, "If you want me to break it down to you," he said, "these games gross over $500 million, more than all of your movies put together." Philip Michael Thomas from Miami Vice actually plays Lance Vance, so his voice really stands out and gives it that Miami Vice vibe. From here, there's some other minor characters such as Lawrence Taylor. He plays B.J. Williams, who is the car salesman whose business you eventually take over. Fan favorite, Danny Trejo plays the Cuban boss, Umberto. You have Robert Davey actually playing Colonel Cortez, while his daughter is paid by Fuza Bach, who you may remember from The Craft. Everybody's favorite bad guy, Luis Guzman, plays Ricardo Diaz. William Fitcher plays Ken Rosenberg, your lawyer. Now take a look at Ken Rosenberg. He looks exactly like the character and lawyer from Carlito's Way, played by Sean Penn. I think this is a pretty direct reference. Everybody's favorite crazy uncle, Gary Busey, plays crazy character Phil Cassidy. So they really spared no expense when it came to voice acting, and it definitely improves the quality of the game, especially considering what voice acting was like in the early days of 3D video games. If you don't believe me, go check out Resident Evil for the PlayStation. Trust me. So in conclusion, Vice City may not be as polished as Grand Theft Auto 5, but it's still a fun game to play. If you go back now, it's going to take a little while to adjust the controls. They're a bit clunky. I will say they are better on the Xbox than the PlayStation, and that's what I've been playing it on again. It's got a killer 80s soundtrack, so if you like 80s music, whether it's metal, rap, you want the talk station for the comedy, you like your new wave, you like funk, it's on there for you. The DJs are hilarious. I just love listening to Fernando Martinez. He's probably my favorite, and I really wish they would bring him back in some form, but unfortunately, The 3D genre of Grand Theft Auto does not exist in the new HD world, but never know. Maybe I can hold out hope for it. So really that's it. It's just a quick review of Vice City. There's so much I could talk about because I absolutely love this game. So grab yourself a mojito, make yourself a rainbow shooter, and sit down and enjoy your time in Vice City. Until then, game and drink responsibly.